we're live. How's it going,
And we're
everybody?
live to Livebrush.
Livebrush. Oh, that was pretty good. We almost harmonied there. That was nice.
Did we?
I think we did. Well, we'll have to see it on the
Wow.
replay, but I think we
No,
harmonized.
no. Listen, we harmonize. I don't care what the replay says.
Yeah, and if if it
It's
isn't
what?
harmonized on the replay, it's because of some sort of audio crunch. Blame it on
Yeah, the
that.
web crunch.
The web
Yeah, the web
crunch.
crunch,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, it gets there all the time, man. How you doing? How you been?
Oh man, been good. Busy week. Busy week. But
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here doing actual personal work. It's great.
No,
How
no,
about you,
man.
man?
Just doing great. I've just been, that's last minute schedule change. Uh, Last week, I was when we sent out like the hey no stream this week, I was like they're probably going to think we're just going to be like all right, no stream next week, and then like 10 years later, you know, we show back up,
Yeah,
and we're back.
a lost third season. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, they're like we're back. I told you we'd be back. So
They
yeah,
didn't
the
believe.
lost season 3. No, they didn't. They didn't. So what are you working on today, man?
I'm back on this guy. I actually made some tweaks. Here, I'll show folks in the chat watching the stream. I I did a bunch of tweaks to this because I just didn't like his stance. And this is all stuff I can solve when I get some like tighter reference for it and everything. But I want to get the gesture and like the attitude down. So I've kind of like tipped
Oh
his head
yeah,
forward and kind of made his legs a little more visible.
yeah.
But today I'm
That's
just going to mess around with getting probably do a couple different color sketches here. I think there's like a warm version of this, and then there's like a really cold version of this that I want to play around with. So
dude, that looks great. That's looking really nice, man.
thanks, dude. It's fun. It's a fun one. What do you got going? You got something
Yeah.
new over there.
Yeah, so I finished up that study that I was working on the last episode. Um, but that's on. If you want to see the finish, I posted it on the Livebrush Instagram. It should be obvious that you've seen the finish. If
Turned
not,
out great.
shame on you. If you haven't seen it, shame on you. You don't follow Livebrush on Instagram.
Yeah,
So
and you
think
should.
about Tyler, folks. He cries
Yeah,
every time.
I want more people in
Um,
there. I want more people on the gram.
Are you trying to lose followers for us, or are you trying to gain followers?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think we might lose followers if we mentioned like Twitter or something, because
The gram.
I
We'll
don't.
call it the gram.
I have my own opinions about Twitter, but I think it's kind of a like poisonous place. So we're not
Yeah.
really we're more about come over to the Instagram where you can look at
Do
pictures.
we? Yeah, but you can look at pictures. No one said anything ever controversial on Instagram.
No one can type or talk.
Oh God. Yeah, so I got this new color study for an 18 by 24 painting. So this is 6 by 8, and yeah, I'm gonna try and I did like a quick underpainting and like a really early color pass on it, and I'm gonna try and get as far as I can today. Um,
Nice. This looks
'Cause
like
I
it's
gotta
from like the
cook
back
on it.
kitchen in your window. Yeah. Is that what we're
Maybe,
looking
who
at?
knows, man? Who knows?
I just want to
No,
know,
yeah,
man.
it is.
This one's
Yeah,
from my
no,
backyard. The one that I'm working on
yeah.
right here. My archery practice in the backyard.
Yeah, that guy's my mailman. Oh
Yeah, it's
God,
a very
you're too
Rockwell of
funny.
me. You get
Yeah.
reference from the local
So
neighbors.
so you gonna do some sculpting reference or what?
I actually have already kind
Talk
of
to me.
rigged up someone in Daz, but this pose is like
Nice.
it's subtle enough that the Daz model can't really pull it off. So I might just scrap that altogether and just do some quick stuff of just me. Like I like where his face kind of sits, so I don't know if I need to do too much with that, but I kind of want to get like different options for like the hands, like how much the hand is like gripping, how much it's not. So I'll probably do some shots for that this weekend.
Right on. That's awesome. I I've got to go back and refamiliarize myself with Daz. I have been though, like in while I'm doing stuff like washing dishes or something like that. I have been watching a lot of like finally the Blender stuff that I purchased those courses. So I've been rocking Blender just to try and familiarize myself with it. And there's actually a DAZ to Blender workflow that they built in.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so you or DAZ to ZBrush. So if like you could take any of their meshes and import them and then sculpt back on top of them.
Oh, that's super cool. I've tried a little of that with ZBrush. But if I move the topography at all, it kind of like screws it up. So I haven't had a lot of success with it.
What? So going from DAZ to ZBrush, you say?
Yeah, I mean, I can do it a little bit, but I want to, like, my goal is to, like, export a character, do a bunch of sculpting on them, and then bring them back into DAZ and pose them, and then again, do the same thing.
Right.
So, but, like, once you start moving the topography, like, once you actually move how the pixels are, or how the geometry is, it won't export again. So,
Oh, it won't.
I think
Oh.
I think I'm just gonna lean into Z spheres on ZBrush and instead of using DAZ to help me.
Oh man. So okay. So now Z spheres, is that what you like? You could pose
Yeah, you
stuff
can kind
or?
of make like really quick poses with it because you're just pulling out
Oh.
like cylinders essentially made out of spheres,
Okay.
cylispheres, cylindospheres. Is that it? Is that a thing?
Yeah. I don't. It is a thing here. Just like we're in harmony. Hey. So I I noticed that Cranston Snored said my copy of Tyler's book was delivered last week and is really good.
All right, fantastic. Glad you like it. I've been seeing people sort of getting them coming through, so it's exciting time.
Try not to get oil paint on this thing, but I did not order a copy.
No, just happen to have one. Looks great. Looks real shiny.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great book, dude.
Thanks,
Congratulations
man.
on that.
Thank you.
It's the reproductions are freaking awesome.
I gotta say, I was talking with John about this the other day, and we were both super excited.
John Flesk.
John Flesk, yeah, we were both really excited about how the print quality came out. We were working with a different printer this time, and it was, I guess we were both the samples they'd sent showed us that they had really good quality. So we were, I don't know, we were a little, we were like, okay, this is gonna be good, but we still don't know what it's gonna look like on book scale. And it
Right.
turned out super nice. So I mean,
Did you have to like
happy
bump up
all around.
did you have to bump up the lights or anything? Like do anything
You
special to
know,
the images?
on one or two for sure. I always, most of my files, like most of my final digital files on my computer, like especially stuff I've sent to Wizards of the Coast, the like final file is leveled up because I know it's going to print dark at Wizards of the Coast. So most of
Right.
them were already good to go. We tweaked like one or two during the proofing process, but we only did like a few selections. We did like 3 or 4 pages and checked to see if the proofing worked.
I'll see like a pool sample almost.
Yeah, we picked John specifically because he's done this so many times. He knows what he's doing, but he picked ones that looked like they were going to be complicated color wise, and used those. So we did like 12 different sample pages out of like the 160 pages,
Wow.
and that kind of let us know exactly which ones were going to print weird, and I don't know, it was good enough for us to go on, and it worked out.
Dude, can you just repeat the page number again for everyone?
Oh, I think there's 164 pages. I think
164 pages.
it's a lot.
That's awesome.
Mind you, we had 300, I think, to begin with, and we had to cut it
Oh
down
my God.
because we're doing a book two. Everybody, doing a book two.
Wow. Remember that time in school when we might have had one
Yeah.
painting that we would actually show.
Or when we struggled to put our portfolios together when we were leaving school.
Oh my God.
And
Remember
it
that
was
day?
like, well, we got to put like 12 images in this portfolio. How the hell are we going to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Spending money
I
with
got to
your
be
man.
honest, going through all that work, I could barely remember doing some of that stuff. I was like, when did I do this? What is this?
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't. I got to go back and look at that. The portfolio we printed out. Oh my God.
Oh, I know, I know.
Oh my God.
Oh,
That
we got a
was
question in the chat. How are the cats? From Krizikon. They're great. They're great. Kate's not in the chat, unfortunately, but the cats are amazing. The sole reason we got them is to keep Ray away from visiting. So
Yeah. I was gonna say that is that if like I could have maybe handled two dogs maybe for like about 20 minutes, but the two cats that would have been it. That's like no Claritin or no allergy pill. You know what it'd be like?
they're hairless, dude.
Um, don't turn into one of those people, okay? But it's like it's okay. There's a lot of people like Tyler and I talk about people who have pets. I have I don't no ill will on people that own pets, but sometimes I'm really allergic to dogs and cats and horses and pretty much anything with hair on it, which is the most ironic thing on the planet Earth for me. Um, so because it takes like about 20 minutes for me to regrow my beard, and um, we every time I'd say like to like pet owners, like every so often, he'll be like, "Oh, I'm really allergic, so I'm not gonna touch him." He's like, "No, no, 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 no. My dog. No, no, no. Don't worry about my dog. My dog's hyperallergenic. Like, dude, you're not gonna get sick from them." And it's like, it's not an offense. I'm sure your dog's he's really nice. He's really nice. And it's
The
just like
dog's
you
nice,
don't
man.
know.
The dog's nice. It's
Yeah,
not gonna be rude
it's
and give you allergies.
it's awful. And then and I feel bad, because it's like people are like, well, I vacuumed, and I look at their vacuum, and it's just like a regular vacuum. So just like it's like you actually made it worse.
Yeah.
Like there's no unless you got like a HEPA filter, just
How did you?
shot the dander everywhere.
We used to go over to Eric's all the time. How did you handle that, man?
I would get sick every single time, and you know what? I actually built up a resistance to his cat. Can you believe that?
There you go. I mean that's how it's supposed to work, though, right? I don't like if you get allergy shots, they're just giving you the thing you're allergic to, but in really small doses, so that you can build up a
Yeah,
resistance.
yeah, I know, and I got to get on that. I just think also like I was too busy playing video games with Eric, and dreaming about our careers, so it was worth it. But yeah, in the end, I was able to last longer and longer and longer. It still like would get me in the end, and it would
Yeah.
kind of like I would have
Oh no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
gut, I would have like a sinus like thing. I'd be congested for like a week. That's always like
Yeah, because it gets on your
the
clothes
thing.
and stuff, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
everywhere.
Oh yeah, those clothes get taken off as soon as I get home, and I have to get in the shower, and it's the whole thing. So.
I get
Um,
that. So obviously I'm allergic to cats. Um, we got the cats, and the first day I had like crazy itchy eyes, and I was panicking. I was like, okay, I can't. We have these cats now. I can't live the rest of my life like this. We're gonna have these cats for like 20 years. Um, but on the day two, I didn't really experience it, and I don't do the allergy shots, but my allergist, because I have really bad hay fever, my allergist was like, take. He told me, he's like, most people won't do this because they give up after a few days, but he was like, just do Flonase and do it for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, you're basically you're not even going to experience any allergies, and that's what I did, and it totally works.
yeah, I should probably do that.
I'll give it a try.
Yeah,
I'm not like, hey Ray,
yeah.
this is what you're
This is
supposed to
not
do. This
this
isn't
is not
like,
medical advice,
yeah, this is not
people.
medical
This is
advice
not.
for me. I'm just telling you what I've done. And
Yeah,
I still have like I'll still get like itchy eyes every once in a while with the cats, but I've definitely built up an immunity at this point.
I knew a guy in when I worked at Blick Art Materials in San Francisco who told me that he was horribly allergic to cats, and that I said that his girlfriend was then had and, he was still, and they were still living together. They've been living together for years, and I was like, "How did you get over it?" He was like, "I took acid,"
Oh,
and and he
like he tripped.
this he described this acid trip where the cat started vibrating colors out of its head, and its eyes went all like glowy, and it was like it just stopped,
What?
and he stopped at the cat and he looked and he grabbed the cat and he like went face to face, like the cat's like nose and his nose were like pretty much touching, and then he like took the cat's fur and just smelled the cat, like took a big inhale, and then the cat walked away, and then he said after that he was he was immune.
You know, the power of psychedelics. You know, that's what they say. They say they're
So,
powerful. You know, stoned ape
yeah,
theory and all that. It's just amazing. It's
it,
amazing.
it was an interesting, and he was dead serious. And so, like, I mean, I don't want to offend the dude. So I'm like, wow, like, yeah, he was dead serious.
I mean, my response would, because I'm a skeptic. You know, my response would have been like, "It seems like you weren't allergic to the cat." Like, I mean, psychedelics. You know, they'll change your mind, but they're not going to change your chemistry.
I
Maybe
could
they'll
see you
change your
leaning
brain
back.
chemistry, but they're not going to change your allergen chemistry.
I could see you leaning back with a glass of wine. I know exact pose you
Yeah,
would
the
have
exact
construct.
look.
Say, yeah, the exact look.
Look, everybody in the chat, what you're gonna find out right now is I'm a born and bred skeptic. Okay, and what this means is I'm very skeptical, and so it means that over the years I have I don't know what you'd call it, come off as kind of a jerk in my
Yeah,
skeptical.
I would say I
Yeah.
would say that's probably the most generous of. No, dude, just joking. Descriptions. No, we're both jerks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways,
Doctor
I
Mon.
can get. I'm better about it now, but I used to be like really bullheaded about my. I'm like, if someone was saying something I thought was complete nonsense and wooey, you know, like I don't know, crystals or ghost stories or something, I'd get you'd get a look from me. You get a very specific look.
Yeah, I've gotten that look when we start talking about Star Trek One and Star Trek Five. You Dr. Mondo says that Lord Notable says, "You heard it, kids. Uncle Ray thinks you should trip on acid." And Cruisergan said, "Legally, that's not what Ray said."
Yeah, I don't know what the terms are for Twitch, but we do not condone the use of illegal
No,
substances in any way,
no,
shape, or form.
no,
Drink
no, no.
responsibly.
Yeah, yeah.
We
There's
do have
not.
some questions though, so we can,
Okay.
if we change the subject fast enough, Twitch won't know that we were talking about that kind of stuff.
Well,
Um,
one thing that Dr. Mondo said was like the spoiler alert: the cat was never there. Yeah, it's probably true.
yeah,
That's probably a really plausible thing.
yeah. A natural, like when someone tells you a crazy story like that, like a natural skeptic response is to be like, "What was your state of mind when this occurred?" And they had already admitted their state of mind. They took acid, so it's really hard to believe the story. I'm skeptical.
Well, I'm skeptic about your skepticism. So
Okay, wait. We do have questions, though. We do have questions
okay,
before we get too deep
uh,
into how little I
here we go.
believe. Okay, we got from Justin Sweet. Oh, sorry, not Justin Sweet.
Yeah, I was like,
Jacob
what?
Sweet.
Yeah.
Good old Jacob's back.
Hey, Jacob.
Hey
What's
Jacob,
up,
how you
man?
doing, man? Okay, let's see. Let's see. You got my book. Fantastic. Came out great. Thank you. He was wondering if the mood plates that I have in there took longer than normal. Longer than any normal illustration since you're developing so much at once. Actually, those are they take longer than most of the visual development work that's in there, just because it's a whole scene. You know, I'm like developing a whole illustration. But I think they're a lot faster than the actual illustrations that I'm doing. So they're in between. They take longer than
Oh,
like the character plates, but they're faster than final illustrations because they're pretty loose. So
they're beautiful, man. It was so great to see that stuff. It was so
thanks,
great
dude.
to see that stuff because you usually don't get to see most of that. Especially like the concept art stuff. Because usually that's just for the sake of informing the artist, or informing the art that's going to come after that, or just development. Some of it just doesn't make the cut, because this might not be right for the series.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it gets left on the. I actually had to kind of clear some of them. This kind of goes to the Lord Adornable's second question after that, like how hard is it to organize and sort that kind of let's see, let me read it correctly. How hard was it to organize this sort of project, or do you have any tips for anyone wishing to go ahead with similar crowd-funded endeavors in the future? Um, so as I was leading into this, I was saying that some of the concept work gets left on the cutting room floor. So like part of the challenges in organizing all this was I had to find stuff that I could show that was in the world guides and was used in the magic
Oh,
sets. So I basically had to go through and only select concepts that were used. So there's a lot of concepts that I couldn't even use. But like the difficulty in organizing it all was actually pretty massive. I had to go through everything I'd done. So my tips to people out there is if you're just starting out, keep all your final images very organized, so that you can find them easier down the road. It actually took a lot of time trying to find everything.
especially when you generate that much work.
Uh, that was the crazy part. I was surprised at how much I had generated. So it took a while.
I I remember that. I remember when you were collecting stuff and you're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, so much of it was like I don't remember even doing this. What the hell?
Isn't it funny? Like, remember in school, um, Bill Mon, would say stuff like, yeah, I don't half of this stuff. I don't even remember how I did it or even remember the piece. And we used to be like, "How do you not remember your own art?
Yeah,
That's ridiculous."
exactly.
But it is totally true. Like, if you do enough of it, you'll remember. I used to be like, how do you not, like? It's like a musician not remembering their own song. I'm like, how do you not remember your own song?
Yeah, and they don't, right? Like
But no,
they
no.
they often
I'm
have
so
to if they're doing a live show, they have to do rehearsals so they can remember these songs that they wrote years ago.
and have the lyrics, and like print it out for them if it's like old enough,
Oh yeah,
or
that
like they
was
just haven't done it in a while,
for
So,
sure.
but it's true. It's true. They're paintings that I was thinking about a couple of paintings. I was putting together stuff for a presentation, and I was like, when did I do this piece? I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this piece was for this show, but like I have no concept of how it was done. Um, and and then that happened to a couple more pieces, and I'm like, oh my god, I was wrong. I was wrong. Bill was
I
right.
know. Yeah, Bill's right. And if you're ever like in a place where someone's on the spot asking you about a piece, it always sounds weird when you hear an artist be like, "Man, I don't even remember that." But it's so true.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many pieces, so many jobs you work on, so many individual pieces you work on. It's really hard to remember it all. It just gets like wiped.
Well, you're also just like growing as an artist too, and doing different things, and like, I mean, I look back a couple of years ago, I'm like, "God, I don't even remember who I was as an artist. I mean, literally like 3 years ago. Like, what was my thought process behind this stuff? Because it's so different to the way I think about stuff now. Just in terms of because you're just trying to improve and try different things.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. Like, because you're developing a system, you
Yeah.
forget, you don't even work that way anymore. So you've forgotten what you were doing on that particular job.
Yeah, Krizikan said we should start showing Ray some random pieces and say he did them. He won't know. And he says this is a joke. Don't gaslight people.
That'd be a
Yeah, we should
fun experiment.
we have a segment called Raz Ray. You know.
Bringing it down on yourself, man. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I know. It's like, dude, I loved you. You know, like,
All
I
right,
loved
we have
you.
Gibbs Santos is asking me about how I'm working with from grayscale to color here. I am. This is how I tend to start out. I'll either start out with a colorized layer over the top, and I'll do I'll pull a gradient between two colors that I want to use, and then I'll save those two colors, and then I'll just start going in and painting back and forth in certain areas. And you get like a very, very limited palette, because you're only using two colors. So you get this like extreme limited palette colorization, which I kind of like as a groundwork to start from. It's almost like a
Totally.
color gradient or a gradient map, which I'll use gradient maps as well. I can bring one of those up, go into tutorial mode. So I'll just gradient map
You were
with this color. Go ahead.
no, you were showing me that, and I had never seen that before. I mean, you showed me that a couple of years ago when you came uh, came to my place, and I was like, whoa. So you could really have fine control over things.
Yeah, there's like gradient maps are super cool because you can like you can so you just put the way the map works is it's mapping the color to the lights and darks of the image. So it's mapping. Unfortunately, I can't bring up the dialogue because I'm only capturing this where I'm drawing, but I'll just describe it. It's showing you a gradient, and the gradient adheres to the black to white of your painting. So if you have like a warm color on the darks, which is what I have, and then a really cool blue on the lights, it's going to map that across the image. So when I go to colorize, you can kind of see that it's colorizing all the darker stuff warm and all the lighter stuff light, but you can really exaggerate that with like all the different blending options. So like this is vivid light, which is actually pretty cool. It's kind of blowing out the lights a little bit, but I usually stick to overlay because it does the best. Multiply darkens. So, but you can kind of see that there's like a significant color mapping going on. If I even turn off the color work I did before, you can see that just a little bit. So that's a cool way to start. And then I just tend to like lightly push in colors. So it just helps me keep harmony. That's kind of how I figured out how to get better harmony.
Well, it's proof. It's proof that something that we've said in the past very often. It's all about the values, kids.
Yeah.
It's all about the values. Uh, but that you're literally doing what I'm doing traditionally, basically.
Yeah. See, yeah, Ray's working the same way, right? You can talk about that.
Yeah. So I started with a uh, monochromatic underpainting and let that dry, and then I'm colorizing it now. So I started off with a washes, glazes of like what like a gradient, like where big areas of color are. So there's warms and cools, or whichever one I wanted to start with, and then I'm painting back into that, and with very little color, just like in Tyler's case. That's basically what the painting looks like when you're um, first starting out with just your initial washes, and then you're just slowly working color uh, right into it. And the advantage is my underpainting is serving as a guide layer for myself. Um, and many times, and Tyler will attest to this in digital too. Once you put like a little bit of color on things, it kind of finishes it off, and you kind of forget where the underpainting starts and begins and ends, you know, because it's just everything is kind of melding together.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now on a painting. Like the ground I have is like really bright red, and it's lending to that blending together, right? Having that color everywhere kind of blends the whole piece together.
Absolutely, because everything has a little bit of that red in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could, you know, experiment with just that one little aspect. Like instead of black and white, it could be, you know, because his, you know, Tyler's was like black and white on top of a gray tone of some sort, you know. But you can switch it up. You could throw, like I threw a wash of burnt umber and then painted basically white with a black that I mixed up with ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And it caused this really nice color feel to it. Uh, and so you're getting color on top of a color, you know, and you're not really even worried, concerned, or just thinking about the color. It's just already built in for you.
I'm you just heard me typing. I'm trying to find like a still from a movie that represents the color I want in this one. So cheating.
Unbelievable, dude.
I know. I know. Let's see if we're missing any questions on here.
Rex Freddy said, loved your map paintings for the Death Star Ray. Really made an impression when I was a kid reading Starlog back in '78.
Yeah, man, it's good work. I know you don't remember it, but it's
Thanks,
crazy good.
dude. Yeah, yeah. You know, someone showed me a picture the other day about it. Back when I used to paint in acrylics.
I'm fast. You were painting really fast back then.
Yeah, yeah. What happened to me, right? There's this guy. His name is Frank Ordaz. Ordaz. He's an incredible painter. Just beautiful color, and he um, he had this blog called On Being Frank, and there's just beautiful work, and he would just talk about little things about direct painting and just little factoids, you know. And I always found it really interesting. And I found out like if you I dug deep into the blog, you know, because you're reading the older posts and stuff, and he was a map painter in on Star Wars.
No, no kidding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he painted the I don't know if he painted the Death Star. He might have, but he did paint a you know, Return of the Jedi, the Imperial. I think he had painted that one with the Imperial, like when Darth Vader first shows up on the in the second Death Star, and they're all like
Oh yeah,
waiting. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
that's
That
awesome.
was the map.
Dang.
That was the map painting, folks. You know, with a
Some of the matte paintings in that are
small
just
little.
mind-boggling.
Dude, they're sick, man. It was a map painting with a small little rectangle cut out uh, from which they exposed the, you know, David Prowse and the other actor who was I forget General Veers, not General Veers, so whoever was in charge of the Death Star, the second Death Star,
Um,
to walk in. I forgot what it was.
I used to know all these characters.
So did I.
Yeah, but that's out of my head now.
Yeah.
That
Um,
there's some like that, like the shuttle base stuff and the Moss Eisley, like where they painted it on glass.
yeah.
That stuff's way cool.
Do you know how map? Yeah, you know. Do you know how map paintings came about? Did I tell you this,
No, no.
dude? So it actually came um, up from the fine arts. Like it was actually, I forgot the artist's name, of course, because it's just one of those days, and I forget my own work, much less other artists' work, right? But he was a California painter, landscape painter, and he fell in love with the California missions, and he saw them like deteriorating, and he was like, how do I preserve this tradition, like all this architecture, because they're just falling apart. And so he decided to film it because the camera was like, it was, accessible of the film camera. And he decided to, if he realized like if he lined up the camera just right and put a piece of glass, he could not only like, well, he found out with the camera basically like if he could shoot the ones that are still there, and any of the ones that were falling apart, what he could do is if he found out if he put a piece of glass on it, he could paint what it would have looked like if it were, you know, not destroyed. And
Oh,
so he was
wow.
painting the additions on, and it should try and preserve it as like a documentary. Isn't that crazy?
That's super cool. I think I've seen I haven't seen this directly, but I mean I think I saw, someone do this where like they were looking at an old castle and they painted like what the castle would look like, but they just drew it in line over a
Right.
window at a cafe looking out at this castle. So that's like the technique you're talking about.
That's pretty much it. That's it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But that's how they figured out glass because the camera doesn't see it. You can shoot right through it.
Yeah, especially if you got polarizers and stuff, you're not going to see the reflection or anything.
Yeah. Or if you yeah, polarizers, or if you just line it up, because Homeboy was outside with his camera. I mean, he
Yeah, that's
probably
true.
didn't. Um,
How cool. That's
but
super cool.
you're right. You're right. It would like then they got fancy and people figured out like, oh, how to do it indoors with polarizers and the right angle and stuff like that. So yeah, I love map paintings.
Some of them are just so detailed. It's mind-boggling.
Good. Yeah, seriously, those guys were no joke. Nowadays it's I was talking to um, an artist who deals in like broadcasts, and he was saying that his the artists that do backgrounds for broadcasts like 3D stuff and everything like that. They do matte paintings, but they'll now everything's like 3D, and they'll take it into Substance Painter and start basically painting on like different things that he might they might call for, and he's like it's like incredible.
Damn,
And I'm like, damn, man.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. And I was like, man, I got to learn Substance Painter.
Yeah, a friend of mine was telling me, Chase Stone. He was saying, he was showing me some stuff where he like sculpted entire creatures and painted over them in Substance Painter. And I guess you have to
No
like do
way.
UV maps and stuff, but there's stuff that can just do it for you, the UV map work. But it was
Right,
just crazy, man. It's like, wow, like this, it's like painting miniatures times a million, right? Like getting it up
dude.
to the complete next level.
That's what I'm talking about. I got to get in on that stuff. That sounds so much fun.
I'm gonna
So
try
with
a
you,
crazy
that's
gradient map.
that's the problem with like 3D is like you can't. I'm learning this now. I didn't realize like you can't just sculpt whatever the hell you want and be like sweet, pop a text, uh, map a texture onto it and call it a day. Like you need coordinates, and a lot of times the meshes are all messed up and just like
Yeah, you need something
completely
really
like
clean.
inefficient. Yeah. And so you have to retopologize things and like I'm like, damn, this is a lot of work. No, and I mean there are programs there to help, but because I know like ZBrush has like a remesher that like really uh, cleans the topology up, but you still have to kind of like it's done by hand. You're basically just tracing over, at least the thing that I'm looking at in Blender. You're tracing it over with just a simple plane. You're tracing your model over with a simple plane. You have a low poly model, and then you're using your high res model that you has like all these polygons. And I haven't gotten to the point where they did it, but they've explained what they were going to do, and they basically you turn that into like a displacement map. So where it's like, where it's white, it's raised. Where it's dark, it's um, it's basically like a mat. That's what it is,
Hmm.
and like that shows elevation, and so it's basically projecting those details onto the low poly version. And that's how you can actually get stuff to properly, show up texture wise with UVs and stuff.
Oh, that makes
I
sense.
think the whole thing is like, what?
I mean, it makes sense to a certain extent, but I get what they need to do. I'm only just starting to learn this stuff myself. So
Is let's see here. I think I was thinking of Peter Ellenshaw. I am not sure, Rexford. Oh, we're getting rated. Party of 49. David
oh,
Peterson back again. The
David
guard
Peterson back
prevail.
again.
Whoa.
Mouse
See,
guard,
David knew we
folks.
weren't cutting and run, but we were here. David
The guard's
Peterson.
here, everyone. The guard is here. Thanks again. I mean, every time it's a huge, it's a
Every
joy
time.
to have all these folks in.
Yes. Seriously. Yeah. Welcome everyone. We're talking movies again. What a shocker.
Yeah, I
But this
mean,
time we're talking special effects.
yeah. Now we're talking special effects. Yeah, we should be talking more movies, dude. I was actually going to tell you. I recently started finally the Cobra Kai show on Netflix.
Okay. So how late, let me ask you, how late did you stay up after you started
Dude, very late. I think I watched all the first season. I mean, luckily it's like, it's 30-minute episodes. But I'm gonna risk saying this. It is tantamount to genius. It's you would think it was gonna be really silly, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like it has a kind of like a hard start in that the acting's not great, and clearly they didn't like hire a cinematographer or anything. It's very like
Yeah.
flat.
Yeah.
But holy crap, it's so good.
It's
It's
really good.
so well thought
It's
out. Every little aspect, like of examining the the time between the Karate Kid and now, and
yeah.
what could happen to those characters and how they deal with it, and how people are nuanced and like nobody's like a true villain, and no one. It's so brilliant. It's
Yeah.
surprisingly brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. It's well, actually, I want to talk about that more. David Peterson said, "I love rating talented artists." Thank you.
Thank you
I
so
know you mean
much.
just me. I know Kate and I appreciate that. Uh, and it helps that you represent both traditional and digital techniques. Yeah, man. It's all the same stuff to us. Whatever works, right?
Yeah, that's honestly, it's. I have no. I mean, we've talked about this a million times, but I have no issues with how people create an image. Um, I think we've so many times we've gone over the concept of what someone cheating. And I guess the our main rule is cheating would be if you stole someone else's work, but otherwise, I don't really see what cheating would be in creating a good image. If it's great, it worked, right? If whatever
Saying
you
that you
did
were a map
worked.
painter, saying you were a map painter in, during the time of Star Wars would probably be cheating when you were kind of like when you weren't even born. Like,
Yeah, well, yeah, I couldn't have been. I definitely could not have been a matte painter in 1977 or before that. So
yeah.
I wasn't on this. I wasn't in this universe yet.
Well, yeah. Well, welcome, David Peterson. It's yeah. He says there's no right answer, and getting to see two people explore options in one stream is a great place to bring back people. Well, we're always honored to have him. This is a great community, so I'm sure everyone in the chat loves the guard, loves the guard.
Absolutely.
So,
Keep up the good work, man.
dude, we're fans.
Yeah, we are fans over here.
All right. So, one thing I was gonna say was like, uh, I'm going to dinner. Okay. All right, David. Have a good
Enjoy.
one, man.
Bon appetit.
Save some for us. Um, David Peterson. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Oh, this is
I remember.
yeah, Dave's amazing, man. Nick DeLuca just brought up a great point here. This is something actually I've dealt with myself. When working digitally with values, Nick DeLuca's saying when they work digitally with values, their skin always looks metallic when they add color on top of the
Mhm.
black and white values. Any suggestions on how to fix this? Um, I would suggest this. And it's obviously going to be like super contextual, but where your skin's probably looking metallic because you're kind of applying. You're probably this is what I used to do. I haven't seen what we're talking about here, but I would get that metallic look a lot because I would apply specular highlight to basically everywhere. So you know when you're looking at a sphere and the side of the sphere comes to a highlight, like on this guy's head, like it comes to the highlight. That's like your highest area of local value. That's where most of the light's hitting it. But the specular is completely different. The specular is you have to limit where you use that because the specular highlight is basically reflecting the light source directly back at you. So don't keep your specular highlights really limited. And also remember that when you're getting into color, your specular highlight's actually going to have a significant, not hugely significant, but it will have a color shift. So if your character is being lit by a cold light, you're going to see that cold temperature in the specular, where you may not see it as heavily in the skin tone of the character. So just remember that, especially with darker skin characters, the specular stuff becomes like super cold. Even if the light is warm, it's way colder than the skin tone. So remember to avoid that. So number one, I would say is like watch how much specular you do. So make sure you don't bring all your skin when it's turning towards the light. Don't bring all the skin tones to the maximum brightness, because like the neutral place of skin tones is actually pretty dim compared to the specular highlight that you're going to get. And then be choosy about when you do a specular highlight. It's not all the time that you're even going to see it. Sometimes they're not sweating. So just be save those specular highlights for like the eyes or like the tip of the nose. So just be really careful with where you use them. Ray, you got any? Did I say anything wrong there?
No, dude. It was yeah, that's the biggest thing is like I think we did that in school at first, which was confusing the lightmost facing plane with the specular highlight.
Right.
Um, because it could definitely be offset if you're not, depending on where that light source is. So um, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, it happened to me because I would jump, especially digitally, is because I would jump the gun on the lightmost facing plane. I wouldn't put the correct value underneath it. So there was no form really kind of turning before I put the specular highlight on it.
Yeah, I think
If that makes any
I
sense.
had the same issue, and I would jump way too quick to that really bright highlight. Where if you got to make sure you got to be really finessey and careful with that.
Because it's really easy to do digitally because the color can go down so clean. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and I had so much plastic looking stuff. I remember Bill even said that. He's like, "All your skin tones look like plastic." Um, and I don't know. He probably had a solution at the time. I don't remember what it was, because Bill always has
You
a
never,
solution.
yeah.
Um,
Well, you never got a chance to hear it because you shoved them after.
yeah, and I
That
just
was.
kicked him out of my way and was like, "I don't want to hear your stuff." Um, but here, like I'm kind of doing it right here. Is like I'm giving him a specular just on the tip of his nose. But what I did is I pulled this really cold color from behind him, and I used that for the specular. So his nose is kind of red, but the specular is really cold, and I'm only using it in a very, very limited area. So be really sparing with it. If you're sparing enough with it, once you start to understand where your specular is going to be and not, you'll be able to control it a lot easier. Ray, did you want to talk about grouping values like you were doing last week? I think that's what Nick DeLuca's asking about. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Grouping your shadow
Um,
shapes. Yeah, I think what Ray was talking about was grouping his values, not his shadow shapes. But go ahead, go ahead.
correct. Yeah. So like it could have been. So there's a difference between grouping the shadow shapes and then grouping uh, the values. So actually, sometimes they're the same thing. But um, what I was doing is basically taking my entire piece and cutting it up into major value shapes. So like pretty much everything right here, I want this whole area to be the same value, or at least close to the same value, because that's the way I designed it. And then with the maybe leaving myself some room to slightly raise it if I need to, but ever so slightly. And the same thing for this, you know. And the reason why is because it leads to a stronger design because it's the shapes read a lot more uh, graphically. It's graphically strong, and so and it's something I've been getting into after kind of revisiting Dean Cornwell's work and after a talk that artist talk that I saw with a painter by the name of John Burton, he's a concept artist now, but he's a killer landscape painter, and he talked about kind of like just tying together shapes as much as possible. And it really got me kind of thinking about that. And I really tried hard with this and that last piece to do that, like to really kind of tie together as much of this as possible in the in it with a specific value in mind. And so the more I do that first on my reference, if it's like my final art piece. And actually, I'll do it on my illustration stuff too, because I used to like I do that type of editing on like my illustration stuff, but I can't wait to actually use it even more so on that, and I can
Mm-hmm.
do that on my reference in Photoshop as what I do it. So I like setting everything up like that, and it kind of serves as my thumbnail. So I'm like, really exploring those little aspects. But if you look at Tyler's piece right there, you'll notice like the background, the shape of the figure is two values almost two values if you were to think about the figure and the hands and the arms, maybe three if you tie together the sword, but the sword is so close to the background value of the so close to the background value, so everything's kind of tying together like that. Like sure, he might have some instance where he just there's a slight separation, but the shape is reading really strongly. And you can see the rocks, like you could detail the hell out of the rocks, but everything's maintaining its read, and so he's not using a thousand value like all of the values in the value scale for those rocks. Like he's keeping it within a really narrow um, bandwidth of values or a really narrow range.
Yeah, and I've kept it kind
I,
of
I,
low. Like if I were to put in like bright white, like 100% white, I'll show you that. You can see how low I've kept like the key, like the overall key of the image is low, but like this is like the brightest white, and it doesn't even exist anywhere in this image. Like even in these areas that look like they're bright, they're not compared to actual white. So I think that was something we learned a lot when we were working, is to like really control that. Like if you're
mm-hmm.
gonna have 100% black, you should probably not have 100% white anywhere,
Right.
unless you're trying to make some kind of statement, and you can break the rules when you want to do that. But I'm just keeping an overall like mid mid gray to really dark, like in the middle part of his jacket here, it's really dark. So I'm just kind of keeping that as my overall like value structure.
It's pretty much. I mean, we Tyler and I got it from people who studied the Brandywine artists. So like the idea is like if you look at a lot of like concept art today, especially animation, art, you could see it's hugely influenced by their value structure. It's like it's and the principle is light against light, you could do light against light, dark against dark, middle tone against middle tone. You could do whatever you want in terms of your values, but you got to make sure that your focal point is the highest point of contrast. And they would do that by also grouping together those shapes as much as possible. And so if you look at Dean Cornwell's stuff, like he'll take an entire floor, like I've seen him do like an entire like figures sitting in like standing in mud, and the mud of the entire area is tying together with the pants, and those are tying together with the vests. Like you could see separation between all of them, but they're in such a narrow value range. It's all like it feels like an entire singular shape,
Mm-hmm.
which is what makes the impact so strong. And we learned it in school for sure, and I think now I fully understand how it applies to. I always actually knew how it applied to um, my digital work and my illustration work because it was easy to set that up in the narrative. But for some reason or another, I think I inherently instinctually knew how to do it with my gallery work, but I'm really being a lot more. What's the word? A lot more thoughtful about it and a lot more intentional about it. That's the word I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Intentional. So, uh,
I think
because I
that's
want my
that's
stuff
like
to
the
look good.
natural, I don't know, the natural progression, right? As we figure out how all these things work, we
Yeah,
slowly start getting way more and more intentional with our plans.
totally, totally. I mean, half this stuff I wouldn't have been able to have the bandwidth to think about when I was a student. It's just impossible. Like, there's just so much, too much to learn, you know.
Yeah, and it's
And
overwhelming.
yeah, it really is. And it takes a lot of couple of years to unpack a lot of things, and even then, when you unpack it, it lends to other things. And I learned so much in school, in grad school, uh, about the picture making process. But like, I've learned a lot more. I've been able to take that and grow that knowledge base, so it's way larger now than it was when I left school. If that makes sense,
Yeah, no, totally.
you know.
And that's just in the doing, really.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, a lot of it
It's
is.
yeah. Yeah. Also, totally, yeah, totally that. And also hearing. It's cool to hear other people's take on the same principles. Like I like watching a lot of other artists talk about stuff, like certain things about values and reading books about them, and because sometimes it might not all make sense just because like Howard Pyle says something, in Andrew Lewis's creative illustration about stuff doesn't mean that like, oh, he was an incredible teacher, so if I don't get it, I'm a moron.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it might just not, it might be taken out of context, or you just might not understand it because of just the way it's been described.
Yeah, or it just
It's
hasn't clicked yet, right? Like it has nothing to
hasn't
do with
clicked yet.
like
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this. Like I think Gurney is his books are great and he's a great teacher, but there was like I couldn't understand his color theory for the longest time.
Yeah,
It didn't make any sense to me, but eventually it did. Now it makes sense to me. It's just like the more you're exposed to the concepts, the better it starts making
totally.
sense in your mind.
Yeah, and the more you understand it, you know, you grow. The more you can understand it, and then you could take that and be able to deconstruct that. Like, yeah, I never understood like the gamut mapping thing with the, you know, now I get it now, but like I was like, what the hell? I mean, I got
Yeah.
to get this thing that masks off the colors and
And then I was
you know,
always, and it's still to this day, I'm like, well, how long do I decide? Like, where's my decision making when it comes to like how long the side of the triangle is? And where does the
right.
middle point live? Like, it's
Yeah,
it's all like, how far should I have the one line of it ride over the middle of the gray in the middle of the color wheel? There's just like so many questions of like, what's the methodology here? But in the end, it's just all it is. All that triangle is the three colors you're going to work from. That's all it
right,
is. It's just you're
right.
locking in the color wheel to the three pigments you want to work with. I had to think of it in terms of traditional, sorry, not original, but traditional mediums instead of digital mediums.
Yeah, the way I actually, it's funny. It clicked for me. We haven't talked about this. It actually finally made sense to me when I thought about it in the context of value, which is the opposite of like no, there's no color. But if you look at like how like you basically get your value range and then you decide kind of what color scheme you want, and then you could see like how the thing tweaks like to light key, high key, middle key, you know what I mean, low key, and you have your whatever your colors in there that you've sort of decided your range, um, and everything makes sense to me in the context of like the way Bill taught it to us. So, um, and so it makes sense. Like, oh, this is just another way of planning out something based off of like I could read how he does that now. You know, it's like, oh, it's basically an analogous split complementary color scheme. He's just basically deciding on the colors, though, a lot more. He's narrowing down what he wants,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know,
Well, yeah. I mean,
which
like
is
Bill's
helpful.
Bill's analogous split complementary is a giant triangle, but it's really wide on one end.
Right, right. And I think it's just basically just there to tell you, it, like the way I explain it to myself, it's like the duck principle. Okay, so follow me here.
All right.
Okay, so you got 10 ducks, right? And let's say you have like so I would do is like if you have 10 ducks, they all look alike. Like I would draw 10 ducks on a chalkboard and basically ask students like, which duck do I want you to look at? And I try to make them exactly the same, like really rudimentary ones. And some students would be like, I think it's the third one, and then someone says, no, it's the fourth one, no, it's the fifth one, no, it's the sixth one, no, it's the seventh one, no, it's the eighth one, and it's like they're all kind of different, right? And so there's no real unity. The unity is that there's ducks, but it's not obvious what I need to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And so the point that I would get to is like, well, you got to make sure that you point to point to that, get the viewer to see that. I said, well, if I and so then I would fill in one duck. I said, which duck you want me to look at, and which duck I want you, do I want you to look at? And they said, well, the one you filled in. I says, yeah, you get it. It's like,
Right. It's
why didn't you
contrast.
say the other ones? Right, it's contrast, and so now it feels a little bit, but it was like 10 ducks. Like it feels a little extreme though. So it's like it's a little jolted. So it doesn't feel like it's all part of the same thing. So the more you like, it's playing that dance. Like if I do two or three, it actually feels a little bit better. You know, to the eye. It's like, oh, it's ducks, but some of them are different. But if you go all the way to five, then we're back to square one, where it's like, I don't know what you want me to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just basically to get asymmetry out of your color schemes. That's all it really is. But have basically the principle of like you want variety, but you also want variety within unity.
Right.
You
Right.
get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
No, I
it's
totally
like
get what you're saying.
yeah. So and artists have like come up with all these different ways of thinking about it, 80/20 and all this stuff. Like, but that's all it is. You just want a ton of variety. You want it to be interesting, but you also want it to be cohesive. Um, as to like in your visual communication. So Phil's analogous split complementary color scheme and the way James Gurney thinks about colors is exactly that. He's talking. He like you could see it. Like he's like you could see how harmonious it looks, and then where those different colors, those contrasting colors, come from. But they're not so jarring that it breaks the harmony of the whole piece
Right.
or
Like
the
when you have
unity of the
when
design.
you have too many colors, you're breaking that harmony because it's just all over the
Right.
place.
And also like if you have like a really really slick, like a well executed painting, you won't have like a field of green and like one small area of red. It's going to be, unless you want it to be jarring, right? But um, if you look at the way it's sort of handled, like any just pick any like well painted, or excuse me, like really colorful piece that feels like it's all a part of the same light. It's being hit by the same light. You'll notice that the thing that's the contrast isn't like a full on, let's say you have a sea of blue and you got orange, or anything that's orange will pop out. Well, that orange is not like straight up orange. It's hinted in orange. Like it's not like you could play around with that idea. So it's like a it's enough that it feels orange within the same envelope of all the things that are affected by blue.
Right. Yeah.
It's
And that
hard for
can
me. It's
be
kind of hard for
gray.
me to understand. Yeah, exactly. So like that could totally be gray. It could just be something that feels like the opposite. It 100% could be gray. Um, it, and so like for instance, like if I put this, there's a field of orange here, right? Let's see if this shows up here. If I put this on my camera here, on my painting, it's like super. I mean, it sticks out at least on my end, right? It's just
Do it,
orange
man. Touch it.
on this
Touch the
field
board
of
with it.
blue.
Paint it on there.
There you go.
Do it. Do it.
Right.
Oh no.
So it's like, well, I got you to get there, but it's it's like now I can't. The viewer never goes back to revisit the
Hmm.
rest of the composition because it's just so different that it's like another painting on top. And you could use that to your advantage as an artist. I've seen a lot of paintings that do that, um, but for my work, I want it to be a little bit more subtle. So I want it to be a part of the whole scene, and so I've designed it so that that's not necessarily the case. So instead of orange, straight up orange, I'm going to use a really warm green. So it's a green with a bunch of orange in it, and that's going to really sort of pop out.
Yeah, this was something that's come up. I think this is all about our strong values, right? If you have strong values, Ray could put a hot orange down there, but it's gonna be super distracting. But if you had like
Right.
exactly the right values, like if you matched the value of that blue perfectly, then you don't get as much of a contrast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so the goal is to that's the reason why I design my values in monochrome, and I learned this from digital painting, because I can design everything so it I'm focused on my focal point. So at least with my focal point has those values in. Like I know that as just some pure values, I'm getting the eye to get to my focal point, which by the way is going to be this area. I'm going to really put like really dark darks in here. Um, and so I'm having contrast in values. I'm also going to have contrast in shape too. It's going to be the most clearest of shape, and so then I'm also going to have contrast in color, which is putting in all those colors um, but it's easy to point to know where to put that because that's the problem with people when they're learning color. They just don't know where to put the thing that makes it look colorful, right? And it's the answer is the focal point. It's the thing that's different. So because that's what's going to attract contrast. Uh, but you need to design that first because it just can't be some random place.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's why. I mean, that's why this is probably helpful for people to see. Is we're fooling around here, like we're trying to find that. I'm trying to find like how to reinforce the focal point on mine. Like right now, I think like the cool graphic shape I'm doing with the sword is actually creating this focal point. So I'm going to go down there and like blur those edges a little bit, and then I'm going to add more heat into his face, probably like through his ear, so that I can have some contrast as a focal point. Like
yeah,
I'll probably do what I often do with ears. Is he's not like super backlit, but I'm just gonna, who cares? I'm gonna cheat it anyways, and just give him like that really intense subsurface scattering like through his ear.
look at
So
you with the 3D terms.
what did we? I mean, before, what did we even call that before? That's all I call it now. I remember there was a point where I didn't know what subsurface scattering was, and now I do, and I don't know what the hell I called it before.
The glowy thing.
The glowy thing, yeah. So I'm just gonna add a little
Yeah.
bit in there, but I mean, and this one, because it's so cold, I'm like relying mostly on the values. There's very, very little color in this, which I find is actually really important if you're doing a foggy scene. There's basically an overall tone of color, but there's not a ton of color variety.
Well, that sets the scene, right?
Yeah, it adds to that mood of fog. You know, you can't see
Yeah.
much. So if there's not a lot of contrast in the colors or in the values, it feels like you're in fog. We were talking about something before this, but I got sidetracked.
I don't know. Jacob Sweet says Donato talked about how each painting has its own quote color context. Yeah, this is another way of saying like you know color scheme. Yeah, same
Yeah.
same
Or
thing.
we
Yeah.
we use the term in school. We use the term light envelope, which we got from somebody, probably from Bill or some old landscape painter. But it's like the idea that you have, it's the same as gamma mapping really, but the whole image has a particular set of light, like a particular tone of light, and you're only going to get so much color in there. That's kind of how I've viewed gamut mapping, is this idea of it's a gel, right? Like in movie terms, it's like you're putting a gel over the light, and the gel is turning the light one color. And so I think we've talked about this on the stream a million times. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
certain colors will not exist in certain lighting conditions. It's just impossible. You know, if you have really harsh green light, red can't exist there. It's just black or gray. It just can't exist.
Right.
But you'll see it as red if if you had a scene that was really heavily lit with a green light. Anything that was approaching gray is going to look like red. So it's all about that envelope.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah. I mean, it just made so much sense when I saw the way Bill drew out that. To me, drew out the color wheel and was like, you just take, you do most of your painting in the analogous string, and then you have a split complement as your focal point. Boom, done. And it's like, oh, there's the color envelope right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the analogous string. It's the majority of the colors. So right now I'm doing a field of blue, using mostly blues. That's my color envelope, and my focal point is going to be orange. And my orange, I'm going to pop orange right here in these areas, really subtly. So much so that I'm, knocking down anything that has orange in it. I can mix a little bit more of the blue in it and kill it so that it reads as almost like a secondary read. There's orange kind of guiding the eye towards this obvious, uh, obvious thing here. Color's an interesting thing. That's why I teach a 14-week course on it.
Ray's got it down. I feel like I'm still struggling with it every time. But the struggle I think is not in like I don't understand it. It's just like it's decision paralysis. There's so much.
Yeah,
There's so many options. And
totally.
what's
That's
mine
that's
is
the
like
problem.
I'll go down this road and it's like sunken cost fallacy, right? It's like, oh, I've colored this guy this far and I like it, but there's a million other ways I could have done this. Did I do
Totally.
the right one?
Right. Yeah. That's the well, yeah. That's always the hard thing, right? That was literally all I was going to say. It's like the issue is just having a plan, and but also just when you get into the neck, deep end of the woods, it's like, okay, well, how could I have done this differently? Should I do this differently? What am I trying to do here? And yeah, I mean, I'd fall into the trap too, where my palette is like really similar everywhere, and I'm trying really hard to kind of break that myself. You know, where I'm like this cool. This is gonna be a cool light painting, and I don't do a lot of cool light paintings. I should really do them, you know, because they're a lot of fun. But I'm just tired of like, I used to. It's funny. I'm known for like warm light in my work, but the only reason why I did a lot of warm light paintings is because I sucked at warm light paintings. It was the worst thing. It was like I couldn't paint them. Isn't that
Hmm.
funny?
I still have a hard time with them. So you know, you kind of like made yourself do it so that you could get good at it, and you did.
Yeah. And now it's like, oh, I love the warm light in your work. And I'm like, shit. Like I gotta vary it up now. It's like, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I should probably change it up.
That's good though. That's a good thing. You know, we don't want to get painted a new
Yeah, yeah,
box. Forgive the pun.
yeah. That's all. With illustration, you could really. I find with that type of stuff, it's at least in my what I based off like in comparison to what I do with my gallery work, you could really have fun with that. It could. It's easier to. I find like it's easier to just be wild with it and be like, yeah, like because the situation calls for things like, oh, everything in this would be have to be red because I don't know, you have people fighting in a volcano. You know, it's like,
Yeah, but
whoa. You
the
know, it's like,
big issue, like the issue that comes up in that scenario is like, yeah, you can go crazy with that kind of stuff, but the issue comes up is when you're working on someone's like IP, right? So
right,
it's like if they're fighting in a volcano, but Superman's there, right?
right, right,
Oh
right.
shoot! Well, Superman's got to have
Or
a
the green,
blue
no,
outfit on.
no, the Green Lantern. There you go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Superman and the Green Lantern are fighting in the middle of a volcano.
Right.
Okay, okay, go paint it. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, well, the green's gonna not turn. It's gonna look gray.
Yeah, and even the
It'll
magical
be.
effect's gonna look weird.
It's gonna look weird. You know.
And
Actually, you know
Superman's
what?
blue
That's.
suit's not really gonna look turn up, you know. So it's I've had that
It's gonna look
before
like a
where
turd.
yeah, I've had that before where it's like if it's a blue dragon, but they're in like a volcano, and then you're like, okay, well, the light envelope here, like we're gonna be there's no blue dragon. We're looking at a gray
Yeah.
dragon.
Yeah. Arcvane says, "Have you ever sat in on any of Nathan Fowkes' demos slash lectures? I feel like I had a have a pretty good understanding of color until I hear him talk about it. Then I realize I know almost nothing compared to him.
Yeah, he's a
I
color
love him.
master, man.
A huge fan of his work. Huge fan, huge fan. I was
How
actually
big
just watching a
are you a
video.
big fan?
Yeah, he's pretty freaking good, man. He's pretty good. He's killer, man. He's
He's
absolutely.
super good. Yeah,
Yeah.
check him out, everybody.
So I've, you know, I'm trying to think. Have I sat in on like or watched demos of him working? No, I can't. You know, I honestly can't say. I was watching how he colorizes a grayscale sort of comp. That video on YouTube, but I haven't actually figured. Yeah, no, I haven't actually watched one. I get his color in his work. It makes total sense to me.
It's so
But
strong. Yeah.
yeah, he's really good about his shape design is excellent. Um, those guys are so good. Like those top end, like really high end people that work in just in concept like that. Oh my god, like they are composition masters.
Yeah, it blows me away.
Did
Like
you?
I've done concepts for tabletop gaming, and it's not the same thing. Like the guys that do video game stuff or film stuff, they are absolutely on the next level.
And it's like just oh man, uh, and just to see their shape design. Rob Rupel is another person, man. He is like shape design is so good. But yeah, so Nathan Fox. I mean, like if you look at his gouache work and stuff. You could see those like just beautiful shapes that he's cutting in and out. But he uses all sorts of color schemes, man. He's not like, but that's it. With film, it just like calls for it. But he's able to handle those. I love the way what he puts in, like the colors he puts in his shadows, and he plays around, like he just dances around in the what I can just call it the analogous field. When he's like the blues, he's just like putting everything. Like you see greens, and you see this, and you see
Yeah.
that. It's just so well done, and that's actually like John Burton. If you look at his work, he's like that. Or David Dibble's another person.
Hmm.
Um, just strong composition, like just killer. And it makes sense that they're landscape painters because that's all it is composition. It's not like it's not a tree that you're painting. It's a blob.
Right. Right.
So it, it's like how do you show depth and how do you make it interesting? You know, because all of your paintings can't be green, brown, and blue. Green trees and brown dirt and blue
Remember that?
sky. It's just,
Remember when Bill said that in our landscape painting class, and
yeah, yeah.
and
And then Jeremy
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 Mann was
got
like, you know
pissed
what?
off.
I'm doing a whole series of paintings that are
Yeah,
tan,
yeah.
green, and blue.
You know, yeah. And then and they were killer.
Yeah,
But
they're killer.
even he just dropped down the base of the saturation and then just danced. It
Yeah, I
wasn't
think.
all like a single color.
Yeah, I think he was doing like what it was like Payne's gray. It was like three. It was like nothing. It was like three colors.
Yeah.
It was like Payne's gray was like the main one, and then I want to say like yellow ochre and something else, and he would just do them like that.
It's funny about Jeremy is like now that I think about his work, they're I would say they're really value based. A lot of his like they have definitely a color envelope in them, but I mean he understands color real. I mean his knowledge is really sophisticated stuff.
Yeah,
I mean he knows exactly what he's doing. Um, with color to that regard because he had to work out every single thing. I mean that's what we were doing. I mean it's not and color was one of those things like you don't need like it's funny when I teach that course on it. It's like I start off with we work mostly on value because most people that say they have issues with color. Not I mean we're not talking about you, but like because you're talking about color like what happens when you understand it's about like selecting it right and decision
yeah, yeah,
paralysis and that's like picture making how to go about like there's so many ways of handling something but someone who's struggling with color usually has value issues.
yeah. I agree.
It's
I
like
agree.
like it didn't read not because of the color it's because the values didn't work correctly and that's why it's not standing out because if you look at you don't need much color to make something look colorful and so what the hell was I saying about this? Oh, so when I finally get up to the point where I'm teaching like the color part, I just use the context of analogous split complementary color schemes to deconstruct other people's paintings um, and show them how like okay, this is how Thomas Blackshear used color. Like you notice, this is the reason why it pops out because of this combination. It might not have been you know exactly how he thought about it. Well, you're not expecting that, but you can understand and deconstruct and use it for your own stuff. So like what Tyler's talking about is like, how do you end up making those decisions? Well, Tyler tell you put together a mood board, you put together examples of colors the color feel you want. It just doesn't come from like the air. Um, well, it kind of does it because photos of the air.
No, but I mean, yeah, it's got to come from somewhere, and oftentimes if it comes from like a real world um thing, real world color scheme, you're gonna get, nature has color harmony, so it's very helpful. Is my point.
Yeah. Craig Nelson used to say, value does all the work and color gets all the credit.
Mm-hmm.
I used to tell us that
100%.
all the time.
This is why I think someone had asked in the chat, like, why, going over our process of working from grayscale. And this is 100% why, because, like, if your values are super good, it doesn't matter what the colors are.
Yeah. And you could then, for me, who there's some people that don't like, they're like more subtle sort of colors. They don't want anything. I would say, Tyler, I think you're kind of in that camp, where it's like you want it to be colorful, but you don't want it to be like, you know, Candyland, Welcome to Candyland sort of things, like really chromatic stuff, unless it like absolutely calls for it and you can dial it up. I mean,
Yeah, and I have, for
and that's
sure.
obvious. Yeah, and you have, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about that Planeswalker piece with the dinosaur.
Yeah, that was every color in the. I mean, I was bordering on all the colors, so
Yeah,
I had to That's where I had to be really careful with the that light envelope we were talking about. Like anything in that image that Ray's talking about, it's this planeswalker with a dinosaur. Anything that looks blue is, if you color sample it, it's incredibly gray. But
yeah,
because everything else in the image is so hot and warm, anything that looks blue, I just rode right at the middle of the color wheel. I wasn't going over into blue. I might have in the sky because the skies are actually quite blue, but everywhere else was just riding right into grays, and they come off as like incredibly blue.
and I mean, for as much color as I put in my piece, I make some. If you look at my palette, it's like a lot of just grays,
Hmm.
really just a lot of muted colors. Because also reality is actually pretty low in chroma, um, or intensity of color. Like if you look at someone's skin, it's like almost gray. If you put it on the actual,
Yeah,
take a look at
it's
anyone,
quite neutral. I
and
think
it's
that's a
hard when you dial it up.
go
Go
ahead, go
back.
ahead.
No, I was saying that just like if you take somebody like Nathan Fawkes, take a look at how I mean, he dials up the color saturation in some of his pieces. But look how harmonious he keeps it. Like that's hard because you have to keep up that. If you actually isolate his colors, though, it's really more about color contrast and like color intensity. It's just he understands like where to put things, so that his colors all relative is what I'm getting at. So, but go
Yeah,
ahead, Tyler. Sorry.
I forget what I was gonna say, man. I don't even. My
Really good.
brain is. I feel like I was Men in Blacked, and my brain's been erased.
You're about to say Star Trek Five rules.
Yeah, I was actually hesitating to even say anything. I was hesitating to even say the term Men in Black, um,
Yeah,
with the recent controversies. But
that's so funny.
the
Can I tell you? Can I tell you that this is totally unrelated? So I do apologize about this. But Nichelle Nichols has a fan art thing on her Instagram thing, like fan art archived.
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so if you look at it, that you'll see our paintings there. Isn't that cool?
Oh man, that's awesome.
I was like,
That's super cool. She's the
what?
best.
That's killer. Yeah, so
I
so
forget.
let's
So
ask Michelle
what the hell
Michelle
were
about
we even
that.
talking about?
I don't know, man. You know what I will say about this though? I will. We were talking about Star Wars and map paintings. I
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
I ended up buying Star Wars Squadrons, by the way.
yeah, dude. We should probably play. When you can.
Yeah, I'm pretty horrible, but I put in like 50 minutes on it, and I was like, I just can't be putting in 50 minutes on it. But like it's a lot of fun.
Dude, it's fun. It's got that Rogue Squad. I mean, it's got that Tie Fighter feel to it.
Yeah,
Original
it's
Tie Fighter
basically
game.
a mix between Rogue Squadron and Tie Fighter. It's not like as simmy as Tie Fighter was,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's got a little bit of that arcade, so which I can appreciate, and it's got a good Star Wars backstory. I'm down. I'm down.
It's
You
fun. They did a
know,
good job with it. The multiplayer is pretty fun.
It's Dr. Mano said it's amazing with the flight stick. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
I don't have
I'm
one,
not
but Kate does, and she was playing
really.
it that way. She was actually playing it. She had her VR headset on and her flight stick.
Oh my
It was
god.
crazy cool.
Oh my god. It, it keep flying upside down and
Yeah,
just
it was.
taking people out.
God, there
Yeah.
was it Star Citizen or something like that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it's Star Citizen.
My
That's
friend had his
the
my friend had a whole throttle system set up and a VR, like a Vive. And so he was like you're like looking around the cockpit and like reaching for control panels and stuff. It was nuts.
that's
It's like
that's
being
nuts.
there.
Yeah, I also got they had a sale on Steam. It's probably it just ended.
Look at you buying all kinds of games.
Dude, man, we got PC now, I'm learning it and don't know where anything is on a damn computer, but
It's all in Steam.
you know, I know. Well, it's just like if I save a file somewhere, I just miss Finder, but it's
Oh
okay.
yeah.
I will learn. I will learn.
Windows kind of like, I mean, you're so used to Mac, but Windows is sort of like you're responsible for your own file placement. So,
Yeah,
I mean, it has
it's
like
just
defaults where it like puts stuff in documents or downloads, but most of the time you got to choose where you're putting files. I throw
yeah,
everything on. I
which
do a lot of stuff on the desktop and then I reorganize it.
which is now like now I know that and I can like yeah, it's 100% what you just said, and
Yeah,
like
it's for
now I
grown-ups,
have it.
dude. It's for grown-ups.
It's for dude. It's so listen. Listen. I'm happy. I'm happy that I got it. It's like I'm doing Blender. It's fun. I can do 3D and I can. It gives me access to all these things, but it is one of the most ugliest user interface experiences I've ever had in my life.
You have to admit it's
That
gotten
is,
better though. Like since Windows
I've got.
95, it's
I
gotten
don't
better.
care about it. That's not saying anything. It's awful, right? And so, but that's like I'm going full Apple sheep on that. Like I sat back. I said that the other day, and I thought to myself, like I'm just like I'm brainwashed. Like I just ugh. But it's like it's so. I remember us talking about it. This is someone I was like, it's so ugly. You know,
Yeah, and
it's just
anytime
like
they make a like aesthetic like UX UI improvement to Windows, it's just doing something that Apple already did.
yeah.
Now,
But
like whereas like the Apple used to like do things that Microsoft did way back in
right,
the day in like the
totally.
80s. Now it's like the reverse. Now it's like if Apple does some cool UI UX situation, Microsoft a few years down the road is gonna be like, let's do that. Let's do that now.
Have you upgraded to Windows 11?
No,
Has
I always
anyone?
give that a long time.
Dude, I'm not. I know I asked this on the stream, but I'm wondering if anybody else has like tackled that because I just don't want things to stop working. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's
I
the
just
thing about like
that's what I don't want to do with either.
well, like Apple with you see like they're not innocent in this at all. Like they do crazy stuff that's frustrating. Like for instance, like they switched over to 64-bit apps only and in their operating system, and it was actually just to lay the groundwork to get their own processors working on their desktop operating system. But it meant that like if I upgraded to a specific version, things like my Cintiq would stop working.
Yeah,
Okay, and then all these things like a bunch of Anatomy 360 models that I paid for, those will stop working too because they're 32-bit.
yeah. That
A
sucks
bunch of
because
a
those are
bunch of
cool.
games, yeah, a bunch of games that I purchased, that'll work stop working too. And so I'm like, so it's gonna cost me money to. That's why I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, I think those are the
So
biggest gripes is that it actually costs you money. You know, like you purchase these things, these games, this software, whatever,
yeah,
and to have them just change the platform or tweak the platform and you actually lose that stuff. That's not fair.
yeah, it's not fair.
This is not fair.
So I'm saying it. I'm coming out saying that. But I'll give it 4 years and then I'll switch back. That being said,
4 years, man. 4 years from now,
4 years, yeah,
who knows
4
what
years.
Apple's going to even look like?
It'll be
Who
well.
knows what the
It'll
iPad's
after
going to look like?
after it takes over its second moon, it opens up its
Yeah,
third factory on the moon.
yeah, that's right. They're going to
Yeah.
go with going up with SpaceX and colonize colonize the universe.
Well, that's the thing I miss about like being able to answer text messages because I got an iPhone
Dude,
and so
that's
like
why.
everything
Yeah,
is
I
yeah.
that's why I ditched the iPhone because I couldn't. The cross-platform stuff didn't work.
It worked for me when I was on a. It wasn't. I mean, I was on the same platform, and now they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
this thing called universal control, which is kind of buggy. But have you seen it?
No, no, but
Where you
is it
like,
a solution?
dude, like say you have a file. You're working on a file, and you want to just on your iPad, you want to just drag it onto your desktop. You just put your iPad next to your desktop and just literally drag it over.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, when it works.
The fact that it's proprietary though, which bugs me, but
Totally. And half of the stuff doesn't even, like you have to upgrade to. Again, it doesn't work with certain things. So,
yeah, yeah.
but I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make this about like a technology stream and raise like.
Everyone in the chat, what are you, Mac users or PC users? Fight it out.
You gonna be a slave, man? Huh? Or you gonna be part of the revolution? Oh
Yeah.
God.
What do you want to be,
Yeah,
open system or closed? What do you want, huh?
oh God. Too funny. So I got that. I got my game. I got that game, and then I got the Force. Oh, what's that platformer? That it was released around the same time.
Oh, oh my God, are you talking
Like
about Jedi Fallen Order?
yeah, yes,
Oh my
yes,
God, get ready. It's like one of the best. It's
yes.
so good. I don't even know how to break this down in like without
Don't spoil it,
spending
man. Don't
500
spoil it.
hours talking about this, but
Okay.
it's a Metroidvania game, like which I love.
Okay.
It's styled like a Metroidvania game. It's a run around platformer, but it's the same sort of Metroidvania thing where you have to get items to progress, and then it opens up
Yeah.
different areas within the areas that you're already in. Um,
Okay.
that's a huge aspect to it, but it's also like it makes me forget about the prequels. And we don't have to go into the prequels, but it makes me forget about all of that and just enjoy Star Wars for a bit. Like it's really cool. It's a good story.
Okay. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to get into. That's what like Squadrons. At least the first part made me feel like I was like, oh man, this actually. I remember when it was like fun.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah.
when you're
I don't know.
flying around
It's
having
like,
a good time.
yeah, yeah. Things I just always wanted. Um, yeah. So okay, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that. I should just do that all the time. Like just get games when years later when they're like $10. Because it was like $10. And I was
It's
like,
kind of
yep.
the way to do things, actually. I think I got a bunch of
Totally.
games on Steam for free.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess it's not very
Yeah.
nice to the devs and everything, but whatever. Games are expensive.
Yeah. I try to support them, you know? I mean, but you also have, like, okay, in my defense, this is the way I feel. But so it's tough, man. Like, I feel bad for the devs because they're such talented people and they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But, like, some of these games, man, they come out and, like, you pay full price and they're not even finished. Like,
Right.
that's
You're
one
talking about
reason why
Cyberpunk.
I haven't. Well, yes, that's the reason why I haven't bought Cyberpunk yet. And I
Hmm.
heard it's like, and someone in the chat told me like, all right, just wait a little more. Just wait a little bit. It's way better, but just a little more. So I'm gonna just wait a little more. I might as well, because they're coming out with DLC for that, right? Are they?
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean, I've heard that
Yeah.
they are not. I mean, they rolled back the release, right? So I don't even know if it'll be a DLC. I think they're going to do a an official re-release.
Oh wow, really?
I think I could be wrong. Someone in the chat
Okay.
can look it up. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So Jacob C says my wife wants me to play Fallen Order so bad. I really should. Hold
Yeah,
on,
man,
my
you won't
wife
be disappointed.
is.
But yeah, I mean, like what Gibbs Santos said, yeah, the mechanics kind of throw you off. Yeah, because it's like on rails in a lot of ways. It's like
Right.
little areas are kind of open world, but it's pretty on rails where you can go until you start unlocking the stuff like you would in a Metroidvania game. So it's
Uh,
it's like a closed world, and you're kind of led down these paths that you can only go because you don't have the stuff you need to get through to another area.
got
So
it.
yeah, but that's super. That's what I like about it because it's like you keep revisiting different planets, and you start unlocking different areas, and they unlock all
All right,
these
don't
huge
tell me
areas.
anymore
Oh,
about the game. Don't-
and then and I won't say anything else. Forget it.
And that's how the Mandalorian starts.
Yeah.
It takes place right where it ended.
Well, I
Yeah.
will say, and this isn't a spoiler about the game, but the universe that it's not even a universe, but like the timeline that it's like I think they're calling it
It's, a-
the,
it's after Order 66, right?
yeah, it's Order 66 timeline.
Yeah.
The official one. It's not the extended universe that used to exist, but
I know, man.
it's in such a cool place with so many cool characters that I think they're bringing in a bunch of these characters into like Boba Fett and the Mandalorian stuff because they're so awesome.
Dude, hell yeah. Okay. See, this is what Livebrush should be. It should be movies. I was talking about that, which we'll be getting back to painting movie portraits, I promise. Um, and then also, what game should Ray play that
Yeah.
everyone else has played that
Right, dude,
everybody's
you got to
gonna
check out this
PC?
game. It's called Diablo 2. It's a sequel to
I
Diablo.
know. I almost I should actually, I haven't played Diablo 2. Can you believe that?
Oh no.
I don't even, I don't even know I don't even know if I should have admitted that.
Probably shouldn't.
Uh
But a lot of people like Diablo 3 more than there's so many people who, Kate included, if she's out there listening to this, which I don't think she is. Um, she loves Diablo 3 but never talks about Diablo 2. And
really?
Diablo 2 is so good compared to Diablo 3.
Ooh, because I've messed around with Diablo 3. Like I played a demo of it, I think, a long time ago. I think maybe at Eric's. Because when did that come out?
Oh, yeah, probably around when we were in school. Over 10 years ago.
Yeah. So like, and I remember thinking like, this game is insane. But this is me like, I feel like one of those every time I come back into video games, I like especially now, I feel like I'm one of those Brazilian tribes, that I've never seen that have been so like or the people like in the Amazon, the tribes in Amazon that have been sheltered away from time itself.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah. I
talking
know what you're
about?
saying.
It's just like, yeah, it's just like what? Like I played I think I said this before on the stream. I played Batman Arkham City like maybe a few years ago, and it was like basically $4 on stream on Steam by that point. Like it was like Game of the Year edition. This is all the DLC. It was just like, please have it, please just buy it. Like everyone's play it, and I decided to play it. So I brought like a my iMac, which I had. This is the one I had upgraded from, and I was like, "This game's amazing," My brother was like, he's like, "Yeah, I've been telling you that for like almost 8 years or some
Yeah.
like some astronomical amount of time." He's like, "I told you about this."
Yeah, dude, it reminds me of that like Jim Gaffigan skit where he's like, "I just saw Heat," and it's like that came out 12 years ago. What are you talking about? I want to talk about
Right.
it now.
Yeah, that is me. That is me in like incredible video games, because I stopped around PlayStation 3. That's
Sure,
like
sure,
in the
yeah.
beginning of PlayStation 3 is when I stopped.
Well, I mean,
Because
there's like
yeah,
Last of Us, God of War, those recent ones, all amazing. So in 10 years, you should try those out too.
yeah, I know, right? Give Santos said that I ended the main campaign in Arkham City. I've had the game for like 10 years. When I had a lot more time, I like at the end of the night, I would like put 1 hour, 1 or 2 hours into that game,
Yeah, yeah.
over the summer and just hammer on that. And I completed everything
I'm a
except for like
completionist, so I would do the same thing.
yeah, yeah. So um, Jacob Sweet said I finally did get to play Disco Elysium. Now that is one on Switch. I need to play till out. Yeah, Disco Elysium. That's another game. Uh, Lord
There's
Adorno, what's your thoughts on some more artsy experimental games like Near Automata? I saw that on I think I saw that on the Steam page. I made on my Steam page. Um, I haven't I haven't checked it out, but I'm aware of like indie developers, which is so great that you can be like a team, a relatively small team, and do something kind of on the artistic side of things and actually produce a product. Whereas,
hmm
it's kind of like going back to its roots in a sense because you don't need like it's like movies now, which is awesome. You know,
Yeah, I mean, there's a
it's
clear
very cool.
distinction between big blockbuster movie and an indie film, right? So I mean,
Right.
there's like the AAA game and there's the smaller game, the indie game,
Yeah.
and I like that there can be two spaces because I like just like with movies, I like an independent film that's not about giant special effects and all kinds of crazy stuff. That's more about just good storytelling.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the documentary on oh my God, what's it called? Indie indie game
No, I don't think
indie
so.
game development. It was the guy who did so it was like it chronicled a couple of people, a couple of developers. One of the guys who did Super Meat Boy, um, the other one who did oh my God, I'm like blanking on all of these other ones. Fez, um, and the third one was oh, I forgot what it was. But these are like all three like legendary games and like the struggles these they all had and like to get it rolling and just the financial burden like and the risks and all that stuff. It's pretty. It was like wow, you know.
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm
Um,
gonna check it out.
I saw it on Netflix.
They kind of have the
But
video games that made us. I don't know if you saw that. It's like the same series as the movies that made us on
what
Netflix.
they have? You're kidding me? They got a video game version? Oh, I gotta
Yeah,
see
and
it.
it's
I
great
gotta
because
see it.
they kind of really go over the struggles with a lot of those early ones, and they're like talking to the guy who created Space Invaders, the Japanese designer,
Oh
and
wow.
it's in it's in a folder. Like the entire Space Invaders game is in a binder on paper, like all the
Like
code,
graphs.
all the
Yeah, yeah,
graphics, and it's just like a bunch
yeah.
of it's graph paper, and they have like the
Right.
creatures, they just shaded in the boxes.
That's
It's way
incredible,
cool.
man. So on YouTube, there's a channel called No Clip. Do you know No Clip?
No, no.
Dude, they do documentaries on the video game industry,
Oh
and
man,
it is like if Ken Burns did video game documentaries.
holy crap, that sounds cool.
It's just so well done. I mean, maybe not like narrations from journals and stuff like that, like
So
in slow pans
it's not
over
like
people's old
Ken Burns'
photos.
Civil War is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, it's not. Yeah, so I guess it's like a poor, but it's really good. They did. Oh my God, what's it called? They did a whole bunch of ones. They did one on Romero Games, the place that Demon's the art director for. Um, they did so many things. Well shot, well produced stuff. Divinity, yeah, Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2.
Oh, super good.
I
That's
did
one
see
Kate and I
that.
have played a lot of. That's from Larian. They are an amazing studio in Ghent, Belgium. They're doing like the latest D&D game, the Baldur's Gate game.
Oh, nice. See, so like No Clip would have stuff like that. They would have super indie stuff like Hades something. I
Yeah,
think it's
that's a
called
fun one.
Hades. Yeah. So uh, and then they would also have like the AAA stuff like them when Doom came back. Like how they went about like resurrecting Doom and following people at id Software and Beth Sheeta, like figuring out how to go about doing that and the
Mm.
process and all, you know, like yeah, it was pretty crazy. Um, what were we getting? I don't even remember. What was
We were
I?
just
What was I
talking about
talking
the
about?
universe, man. I mean, we should be talking about
Universe.
movies a lot more, but
I know, dude. I listen. Okay. I don't know when I'm gonna get time to ever go back to a movie theater. All right. So what I've been thinking about doing is just renting them when they come out.
yeah, why not?
Where
I mean,
where
I've done
should
that for a
where
few.
should I rent them though? Where should I rent them or purchase them?
Can you even
Because
do
this,
that anymore?
well, not physical things. You know, like I'm talking about. So is it gonna have to be digital? So I need to
Yeah,
be
I
on the
mean,
go.
iTunes, right? I mean, would you just get them on iTunes?
I know, but it's just.
You could torrent them, I guess. I'm not condoning that on
Oh,
Twitch.
I'm not
I
gonna
just want you guys to know.
torrent them.
I don't.
No,
I
I'm gonna
don't
rent them
condone
with my own
torrenting.
money. I don't. You know what? Neither do I. It's just too much of a hassle. I don't have time. I just want to be able to go boop 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 boop, boop and then that's it.
You
So I
know what?
guess like
I do it
these
on
do.
a combination of. I have it on. I got some through Google, because you can buy movies on there. I got some through
Right.
Amazon. I've got some on iTunes. It just depends on like where they're available to buy or rent.
Well, and then like there's like I, I gotta I'll read Rex Verdi's thing in a second. Well, like it just drives me crazy. Like I have the actual Blade Runner's director's cuts on Amazon, but it's on a different account, so I can't transfer it onto
Oh,
my
I
main
see.
account now. So I'm like, I don't want to get that. It's like, oh my god, because I hate the Final Cut and everything, you know. But we can get
Wait,
into
wait,
that.
wait. But I mean, if you don't like, which cut do you like though?
The director's cut,
Yeah, the director's cut, the one that came out in like
one,
'95 or something.
the one right after, the one that came out immediately, yeah, the one that came out after the theatrical cut.
Right. Yeah, that was like the '95 DVD release or
Yeah,
'96 or something, where it was like all black with the John Alvin cover, and it
yeah.
was like Warner Brothers was putting out those paper DVD cases. I remember that one. I loved that one, and I do. I like that. I like the director's cut quite a bit.
I think I don't know. I mean, we could talk about it. I mean, Blade Runner's awesome, but I really feel like they killed the artistry of the poetry that was done in those scenes in that final cut. Like the whole idea of like the unicorn and like I
Oh
love
yeah,
that stuff, man.
with what's his name's character, Edward James
Like,
Olmos' character.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, and it just kind of like, yeah, yeah. I love the director's cut. So you can't find it though on Apple. You can only find it on Amazon, and I don't even know if they still have it. So they stopped carrying it. Am I done? Like,
Well, I'm assuming this. What I'm assuming is, and this is a huge assumption, but if you're downloading Blade Runner off of like iTunes, it has all the versions, just like the DVD had. Like the last version that they cut that they released with the Strussen painting on the box, that had all the versions. It had 5 different versions of Blade Runner in it. So my assumption would be that if you do download it on iTunes, it'll have all the different versions in there. But I could be wrong.
well, I,
Been wrong before.
not, now I got to before. You're probably wrong now. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to iTunes. I'm gonna be irate if that's not the case because I was looking at that.
It's very possible it's not because digital releases have become. I don't know, man. Like, I miss the days. I sound like an old man, I guess, but I miss the days like some of my favorite things were like the Fight Club special edition, like the Seven special edition, the
Yeah,
box. Like they came in these like paper
I played.
boxes, and you open it up, and there's like 5 discs in there full of all kinds of stuff. And I
Yeah,
know iTunes has some of that content, but most of the other ones don't have any of that content.
Also, you buy the movie and like it doesn't have like that Blade Runner special edition set that you got had the one of the greatest documentaries on the making of
Yeah,
a movie I think I'd ever seen. Like it was like incredible, incredible. I just watch it over and over again.
yeah,
Um,
and it's hard to find any of that stuff.
yeah, yeah, it's really is. You know, we got a 2 minute warning, by the way. I wanted to read Rex Verdi's version of Ken Burns doing a video game documentary. It said, "My dearest best, I've been coding this game for 6 weeks now, and there's no end in sight."
And hold on, I got to do the violin. It's my best violin. You're welcome, everybody in the chat.
Yeah, I'm looking at your piece. It's looking great, man.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I decided to add in like sunset light, but like not even like really pink light coming in from the sides.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
But I think I'll reinforce. I mean, we're at the end of time here, but I think I'll reinforce the green on the other side of this. In that case, just a little bit.
So you're gonna be. So what are you doing? What, so where are you gonna push this?
I don't know. I think I'm in a spot now where I can go where I want to tighten up the drawing. If if this is a color sketch, I think I'm in a good spot. It's mostly gray. They'll probably be a little more intense when I paint it. But I think I want to tighten up the drawing and like the way his hands and arms work, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
adjust his face a little bit. Get better reference for those. And then I think I'll just roll with it. I think hopefully by next week I'll try and if I have the time I'll try and get this on the board or something by next week. That's a
Killer.
lot to do before then, but I'll try.
I believe in you. Well, I'm gonna be continuing on this. I might actually finish this. End up finishing this
It's
weekend,
looking great, man. Damn.
and thanks, dude. Because I got to start the final on this thing. Um, that's so for my gallery. So I might have a new study,
Mm-hmm.
or I might do something digital. I don't know. I don't know. I might. Who knows? I might even. I don't know. I've been threatening myself to go on Blender and start messing around with a Conan head. But maybe baby steps first. Maybe just figure out how to use the interface.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to propose is, I know we're pretty much over time here, but next week I might just try and do a portrait again, and just give this guy a week or so to rest on my eyes. So yeah, but that'll mean like this weekend I really got to set up my easel setup, which is just right over to the right of me. So
Right. Well, awesome. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It'll
we'll
be
see.
it'll give people something to tune in next time. Well, I've been Raymond Bonilla. You can find my work at raymondbonilla.com and on Instagram at Ray Bonilla Painter, all one word. And who are you, sir?
I have been and always will be Tyler Jacobson. You can find my work at tylerjacobsonart.com, as well as I mostly post my art on Instagram at Tyler Jacobson Art. So that's me.
Awesome, awesome, and thank you everyone for tuning in the chat. It's a great conversation as always. Thanks again to David Peterson for the raid. Do check out Mouse Guard if you haven't. Please consider also following us on Instagram. It's where we announce all our shows. If we have any last minute cancellations or anything like that, you'll be able to find that out as well. And if you're watching this on demand, thank you so much for checking this video out, especially on YouTube. If you could leave a like and consider subscribing, we'd very much appreciate it. So, yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you on next Wednesday.
Thank you, everybody. You're getting good at the send offs, man. Well done.
Dude, I'm the man, as long as I'm not interrupted.
Yeah, you're right. I
Okay,
was staying quiet.
just
All
two
right.
seconds.
We're signing off.
All right,
We screwed
take
up right
care,
at
man.
the end. Good night, everybody.
All right.